Speaking of our beautiful city, our next speaker proudly describes himself as a northerner. Now, yes, he has penetrated the Boerewors curtain. He is a, is it a Belvillian? What do we call people who live in Belleville?
Uncivilized.
You snobby bastards. Did you say Scully? Anyways, he's gonna punch me in the face, I know it. He is another amazing person, as we tend to do among the people who get up here and speak, and he's been very much involved in Cape Town tourism and getting people to come and enjoy this beautiful city in which we live. And he's going to talk to us about sticky stuff in terms of marketing, something he's very passionate about. His name is Craig Kensley. Craig, please take the stage.
Kan ek maar 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat met julle? No. Well, so my name is Craig, and I like to think about how we communicate and how we get messages across and how sticky those messages are, so how long those messages tend to linger. And when you think about those things, you really need to think about the landscape in which you are communicating and what the particular context is. And this is the context. There's lots of noise, there's lots and lots of stuff going on, lots of people trying to say lots of very different things. And what sticks is really, really contextual. So I think what this talk is about this evening is something that's on the top right over there. It's that we should all sing in our own voice. And I want to talk about authenticity and credibility a little bit. So there are a number of strategies when you're thinking about how to make stuff sticky. And novelty versus function is one. I mean, that's a really novel example of a business card of a personal trainer up there. It's really nice. How long is that going to hang around, though? How long is that novelty going to stick with you? Versus something which is really functional from Broke Bike Alley over here, something that people are going to use. Now, a lot of us communicate online, and a lot of us do that professionally, and the internet's a terrible place. It's a very hostile place to communicate. This is my sort of analogy of a website. It's an empty warehouse, and you end up standing in the middle of it on a soapbox, screaming out to the people in the street, right, who have absolutely no incentive to come and check out your website. To be sticky, you need to be here. You need to be where the people are. So we're talking about Twitter, Vine, Facebook. We're talking about social media. Now, what is it that you're saying there and how it is that you're saying it is critically important. People are busy. They're really distracted. You need to think about how you construct your messages and how you're going to make it as sticky as possible. And then we throw this word around, viral, right? My opinion is that viral is completely relative. Don't get stuck on the numbers. Don't look for 1,000 retweets. Communication is about three things: subject, audience, and purpose. It's about what you're talking about, who you're talking to, and why you're talking to them. So just touching 3 people could mean really, really effective communication. This is a magnesium fire starter. Now, the interesting thing about magnesium is the fact that in block form, it's not flammable. You have to break it down. And that's like big ideas. Big ideas, they sit in your head and you all have them. You're looking at me right now with those. It doesn't mean anything unless you really think about how you're going to break it down and feed it to people. And so the fuel of credibility, the fuel of stickiness rather, is credibility. And credibility is a factor of competence and consistency. And that's how you start fires. You need to work on those 2 things, on your consistency and on your competence, to really begin to get your message across. Now, you also need to understand networks of influence, and the hierarchy has completely been turned on its head. The people who used to be influencers are no longer influencers. Peer review is king. People want to hear what other people have to say. And so understanding the hierarchy and how that works and understanding who's connected to who is critically important. Don't crave eye contact. I love this picture. Don't crave eye contact. Don't feel the need for people to look at you all the time. If they're looking at you, you're probably not saying anything tweet-worthy. Don't look at me. Stop it immediately. So let's just take the next 5 seconds to enjoy this. 8 years ago, 2005, this is what an average crowd looked like. 8 years later, it's smart. It's a sea of smartphones. We need to understand the context that we're communicating in. We need to be putting content out there, 140 characters at a time, that lead people from what we're saying to new ideas that they can create themselves. And then it's about connecting with people. It's about touching people. It's about using the networks and the platforms we have. I only have a Facebook page. Akshem. You're connected to people, say stuff, connect with them. This is a really creative use of a profile pic, sort of interacting with a cover photo. So there's lots and lots of stuff you can do, even if you're from Bellville. Now, how many times have you shot off an arrow and then drawn a target around it after it's been shot off already and said, wow, wasn't that a brilliant idea? How many times have you duped yourself into thinking that you're communicating effectively when really it's exactly that? You're trying to convince yourself and other people. It's about targeted, focused communication. And then understanding that there's an uneven playing field, very important. I think about Bafana, and you look at after the game, the stats, it says shots on goal, and then it says shots on target, and there's usually a huge gap between the two. Like, I communicate, I'm great, I put messages out there all the time. How many shots were on target? Very important question which we need to ask ourselves. And then the reason we have the slide here is because I want to talk about association, brand association. Go to interesting events like this one. Associate yourself with interesting brands. Red Bull, Felix Baumgartner or something, whatever his name is there, he broke 4 world records that day. 4 simultaneously. And Red Bull is intrinsically connected to this. Now, this is just for fun because the first time, when I prepared this presentation, this was one of the first pictures I looked for because it's like, how sticky is your stuff, right? So I couldn't not include this. So yeah, let's just, and she's beautiful, isn't she? Wow. No cleavage though, sorry about that. Sometimes it's just, and please read this. Sometimes it's just about getting it off your chest. Sometimes it's not about being viral. Sometimes it's not about being commercially viable. Sometimes it's just about saying something. So if you have something to say, if you have a message, put it out there. Don't judge it. Sometimes it just needs to get said. That's Goldilocks. Not too hot. Not too cold, just right. Don't try and fix it if it isn't broken. Sometimes you're communicating just fine and this guy from Bellville gets on the stage and says you need to think about it, so please do. But if you're communicating effectively already, I need to move on to this, sorry. Effective communication releases rabbits into the room, and then it's up to your audience to follow those rabbits down whichever rabbit holes it leads them to. And I'd like to end this presentation with a pause and then 20 seconds of silence. Dankie!